Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. Today I just wanted to give my opinion on what most people would consider to be higher maths. As a relaxed homeschooling mom, I get asked about math an awful lot because it's one of those things where people who have this school mindset think that if you are not teaching your kids trigonometry and college algebra and calculus, that they are somehow failing them, or you are somehow failing them by not teaching them those things. And here's my opinion on that, because if you're not sure what a relaxed homeschooler is, it is really someone who does the basics of what needs to be learned, but also allows their children plenty of time to explore their own interests. So, getting back to math, this is one of those things that can really be a touchy subject. I know a lot of homeschoolers who are very traditional and use textbooks for everything and really do follow the school way to a T. So, they will have their children doing algebra in 9th grade, geometry in 10th grade, trigonometry in 11th grade, and so on. And that's not how I approach things. And with me, it's really more of a tailored approach. I tailor it towards each child because each child has different aspirations. Now, first of all, I don't feel that there's a need to teach a child trigonometry or college algebra or calculus unless it is something that they are going to need in their career, or if it's something that they are going to need down the line while they are in college. And to be quite honest with you, even if one of my children would ever go to college and would need one of those courses, they would probably take that course there at the college, because as a relaxed homeschool mom, my focus is really on allowing my kids to learn math at their own pace and to focus more on what we would call real world maths, those math skills that will actually be used in everyday life. Now, I do have a few children that I went up to geometry with, and I'm actually doing geometry with my oldest daughter right now. And geometry also is one of those things that, were it not in our Pennsylvania homeschool law that they have to learn at least some geometry, it doesn't say at least some geometry, it just says they have to learn geometry. But I probably wouldn't even go to geometry with all of my kids. Now, some geometry is useful, especially if you have someone who is going into carpentry or construction. I do have my 13-year-old is very interested in getting into construction. So perimeter and area and even volume, plotting points on a grid, those are all useful skills. Creating proofs, if you even know what those are, I remember those from high school, but writing proofs that include using postulates and theorems like the isosceles triangle theorem, no use in everyday life unless unless your child is going to head for a career that is going to require them, which I honestly can't think of many careers that would use proofs. The only time that I have ever had to use any of the skills that I learned in maybe higher algebra, basic algebra, yes, you can apply some of that in everyday life. But even a little bit higher, you don't need to know how to factor polynomials to get by in everyday life. And most people will never use that again. I never used that again. The only time I ever used it was to teach it to my children in our homeschool, and they will likely never use it again unless, again, they choose a career path that requires that. But there are so many things that we as homeschooling parents look at and we think that we have to do them just because the schools do them. And I can assure you that you are not setting most children back by not giving them trigonometry or college algebra or calculus, or dare I say it, even geometry when it comes to proofs. Now, again, if your child expresses an interest in it, by all means, do the higher maths with them. If you can't do it yourself, find a way to do it. I still like ctcmath.com. That's what we use for all of the math up through geometry, and we'll go higher with some of my other children if they ever decide that they want to. But at this point in time, geometry is the highest that I have felt the need to. Now, though, I do have another daughter who wants to be a nurse. Now, I have to say that My daughter, who is doing geometry right now, she's doing it just because she likes it. She thinks it's fun. That's because she hasn't gotten to the proofs yet, so I have to add that in there. But at this point in time, that daughter, her dream is just to be a wife and a mom. So I don't see her needing mathematician style skills in the future, and she's not interested in learning them beyond geometry. Now, I do have another daughter who is interested in possibly becoming a nurse. So for that, yes, she will need some of the higher maths for when she goes through college. So we will focus more on that when she gets to that point in time. But you are not doing your child a disservice if you decide that learning how to balance a checkbook is more important, or learning how to bake or measure things, which again would also be geometry, do taxes, budget, monthly budgeting. These are all skills that I think a lot of times get overlooked, even in the homeschooling community, especially with those families who are super, super focused on textbooks and what schools do and following what the schools do. They get missed in a lot of schools, they get missed in a lot of homeschools, but those are really the skills that our children need to get by in everyday life. Those are the skills that they can't get by without. Now, there's a good possibility that your kids will do just fine without trigonometry. There's not a good possibility that they'll be able to get by without knowing how to balance a checkbook. And these are the things that, as a relaxed homeschool mom, I am the most interested in. And again, I focus it on each of my child's needs, or on their interests, or on what their future looks like and what they might need at that time. But as for me, I do not consider higher math to be mandatory in any way. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.